time is just gone 11 minutes past 8 as we continue with our broadcast Wednesday nights with myself, Inayat Wadi, right here on Salam Media. If you have just tuned in, we welcome you to the show. And the next 45 minutes or so, we are focusing entirely on South Africa and the action that South Africa is taking to The Hague. And joining us this evening is none other than Kanita Hunter. And Kanita is a well-known journalist in South Africa, a News 24 assistant editor for politics and opinions, and she is in Netherlands right now and covering the developments in the Netherlands and The Hague tomorrow. Sister Kanita, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Having me.
Kanita, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Can you hear me, Brother Inayat?
Yes, I can hear you quite loud and clear. And we're also joining us from the United States of America. We've got Professor Nidal Sakr, who will be listening in to the broadcast as well. And we will then be doing some analysis after we've spoken to Sister Kanita. Now, Sister Kanita, I've obviously followed some of your posts and live from The Hague. And it is actually very, very encouraging to look at the level of support that South Africa is getting, even from Palestinians who are living in the Netherlands, outside the Peace Palace, carrying South African flags, expressing their gratitude to the South African government.
Absolutely. It was quite a fascinating thing to see when I went past the Peace Palace today and sort of was reporting within the precinct, to see Palestinians coming out, showing their unwavering gratitude to South Africa for bringing a case of this nature to the International Court of Justice. But also, seeing what's happening on a diplomatic front in relation to countries coming out. You saw Pakistan, Malaysia, Turkey, the OIC, the Arab group of ambassadors at the United Nations coming out, likely to see support from the Arab League. So South Africa is being supported by its, South to South peers, and from many human rights organizations and other civil society organizations across the world. So definitely a momentous case here that will be heard tomorrow, and you can feel it just by being within the precinct of the court, as well as engaging with South Africa's legal team and top government officials.
Well, this is clearly unprecedented as well, because it comes at a time when this genocide is continuing unfolding, and we've seen the magnitude of this genocide, the thousands upon thousands, and we've seen also that the world structures, the likes of the United Nations, that have been unable to do anything, unable to stop the genocide. We've seen the veto come from the United States of America, and clearly this is history in the making, Kanita.
Absolutely. It's the first time Israel is being hauled before what is described as the highest decision-making body of the United Nations, the International Court of Justice. So we know it's a body of the United Nations. Firstly, secondly, South Africa's case is very clear that this is a violation of the Genocide Convention, which both South Africa and Israel are signatories to. And thirdly, this case is important because there's two parts to it. The first part is what's going to be argued before the court tomorrow and responded to on Friday, and that is with regards to immediate measures that South Africa is asking for. So the South African court equivalent of an interim interdict pending the finalization of the bigger case. So immediately what South Africa wants is that for there to be a ceasefire, for there to be humanitarian aid allowed into the Gaza Strip, for Israel not to destroy any evidence while a full investigation into genocide is taking place, that there must not be further displacement of Palestinians. So that's the immediate relief that South Africa is seeking from this court, and that will be the focus of this application hearing tomorrow. And then later on, the bigger case of establishing genocide. As per the court precedent, that's the interesting thing, Brother Inayat, is that the court doesn't have to definitively find that there is genocide that's happening in Gaza or by Israel. There just has to be enough of a case or enough of a suspected genocide for the court to implement these precautionary and intermediate measures. And so that is what South Africa has built its case around. I was quite fascinated to see and to talk to some of the legal team here this afternoon. They seem, it's the best mind legal mind South Africa has, or the world has seen even. And I think it will be fascinating to watch them tomorrow.
Well, certainly is going to be fascinating. And the fact that the South African Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamola, has also, decided to go over as well, just shows how important this case is for South Africa. And also, I know you touched on briefly with regard to the legal team and some of the best legal minds that we could actually have to represent the South African case. And I'm sure, Kanita, for you personally as well, this is a momentous occasion, being able to cover, a case of this nature, which could have, which will obviously have global consequences.
Absolutely. Just a few moments ago, I was actually speaking to the Justice Minister, Ronald Lamola, and we were talking about, South Africa's readiness for the case, and we just had this sort of expressed moment that this is probably one of the biggest moments, not only in my career as a journalist, but also in his career as a Justice Minister. This is not something that one can take lightly, and it's massive for so many reasons. Earlier, the president spoke to the legal team virtually, and he heard from them as well. Just an update on where the case was, and from we were allowed in to just sort of get a sense of what the meeting was like, and we heard the president telling these South African legal team led by advocates Adila Hassam, Tembega Ngogai-Toby, Max du Plessis, and Professor John Duergaard, and I mean a lot of their juniors as well as external counsel, just how historic. He says, the president said, this is historic for humanity. This is not about South Africa. This is not even, entirely only about the Palestinian people. This is about humanity. And I thought that was very, very important. So reflecting on this moment for my career, I think it's an important one. I think that we often report on structures and violations of international law, and to see accountability or an exercise in accountability on a world stage like this one is absolutely astounding, and for me a very, very, very sort of surreal moment, I suppose, once in a lifetime.
Well, Kanita, our eyes and our ears are going to be glued to Netherlands tomorrow, and to The Hague in particular as well. And I'm sure you and I will be touching base at some point in time. But for now, we thank you. We say shukran to you for taking time out and providing us with the update. All the best to you, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Barakallahu alaikum salam.
Kanita Hunter joining us, and she is with the team out in the Netherlands. And with that, we are going to still connect with Professor Nidal Sakr, who is going to be joining us, and just to get his thoughts and his views. And I know I'm not too sure whether Professor Nidal has been listening in to my discussion with Kanita Hunter. Professor Nidal, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always a pleasure to be with you, Brother Inayat.
Yes, Professor Nidal, I don't know whether you have been listening to my discussion with the journalist who is present in the Netherlands at this point in time?
Yes, I have.
Yes, just your thoughts and looking at it, and she spoke about South Africa. She spoke about South African flags that are actually flying in Netherlands, and I know you for a very, very long time has been looking at South Africa as well in terms of some of the global initiatives that you and I have been involved with, and we know that many Palestinians as well have always held South Africa in high regard. The fact that South Africa has taken the lead on this particular issue, just your thoughts, Professor.
Yeah, once again, South Africa proves that it is actually a key world leader in the area of justice, in the area of human rights, and in the area against genocides and crimes against humanity. This is not by no means the first time that South Africa inspires the world in the pursuit of justice. We've seen the South African Judge Goldstone coming up with a report that was even historical precedent at the time, back in 2007, and I'm proud to say that I was involved in collecting and instructing the Palestinian paramedics at the time in the 2007 war on how to collect and treat the evidence that was eventually became the foundation, the legal foundation for the Goldstone report. So South Africa, time and again, since the 80s, since the late 80s, my first involvement with President Mandela at the time, before he even came out of jail, when we received, or when I invited Tahra Andrabi, his personal secretary at the time, to San Francisco. So South Africa has always been a beacon of hope for oppressed people all over the world. Given the history of the South African experience and the suffering from all the crimes that we see today, and how they responded to that, to their own version of quote unquote never again, and given and lending support to oppressed people all over the world, it comes as no surprise. I've known South Africa and South African potential. I've been honored to be aware and sometimes involved with all the initiatives that South Africa is taking, and whatever we see today at the ICJ is just the tip of the iceberg of what South Africa has been doing for decades already anyway. There is much more that we expect from South Africa with all the great things that they're doing, because the international world order that we live in is unfortunately dominated by hegemony and outlawed powers. They call them superpowers, and we need people not only to support South Africa, but to learn from South African experience, to be inspired by what South Africa is doing, to learn how South Africa basically like rose up from the ashes, just like Gaza today, just like Palestinians are rising today to teach the world a lesson on how to be free, how to stand for your basic rights, how to never give up, how to never let down, and how to never stop giving aid and hand to oppressed people all over the world. When we look at Palestine today and what South Africa is doing for Palestine, we should also look at what Palestine is doing for the world. How Palestine and Gaza today and the West Bank and Palestine 48, they're all inspiring people all over the world to rise up, stand for their rights, come out in millions. People from all walks of life, from all nationalities, from all faiths, Jews, Muslims, Christians, and everybody, they're all coming out all over the world to stand for their own humanity. The Palestinian cause today is by no means the cause of the Palestinian people. It is the cause of the free people all over the world. And South Africa is honoring us once again for taking the lead of fighting for that cause in international courts and many other courts as well.
Yes, but also at the same time, you look at it, Professor Nidal, throughout these last few months with the genocide that has been unfolding, there seems to have been a lot of reliance placed on the United Nations to do something. We've seen the resolutions that were vetoed by the United States of America. We've seen the General Assembly. We've seen resolutions that were taken at General Assembly level, and which actually came to no avail. And it needed someone to have the courage. It needed someone to be brave enough to take the stand that South Africa had taken, to take this directly to the ICJ. And this obviously could have serious consequences for even the United Nations, because when I was in Cape Town, the International Relations Minister was present at one of the events that we had attended, and she made the point about even reforming the United Nations. So this obviously has got global consequences.
Well, the battle for justice is multi-level, multifaceted. It's universal. The cause of justice is universal by itself, and the fight for justice is just as universal. Let's not forget that we're working within quote-unquote international world order. That international world order came as a result of First World War, Second World War, and is dominated by basically criminal to the core superpowers. And even if you look at the ICJ today, and for example, like the judges panel, where they come from, the 15 judges that are going to be deciding the proceeding tomorrow, you're going to find like there's at least 7 or 8 of them are not really, or representing or coming from countries that are not really part of the justice cause anyway. Unfortunately, all the Security Council members are represented by judges. We know where the Security Council stand on this, whether it was United States, UK, or France. They're basically the Palestinian blood is on their hands since the beginning, and even now, even more so today after this war on Gaza. China, they got their blood on their hand for the Uyghur Muslims. Russia, they got their own issue to deal with as well. And then we have like the 10 other countries. Out of this 10 other countries, we're talking about Australia, we're talking about some other countries where actually that are not really, I mean, if the judges are going to represent their countries' stand on the war on Gaza, then you can tell, like, I mean, we're talking about we need 8 out of 7 judges on the side of justice and human rights. And I'm not really so sure that we got that number anyway, but nonetheless, the filing by itself is a historical precedent. We should be all inspired and savor like this historical moment. We can hope all we want. I hope that we manage our expectations, because the fight for justice is way like too long and way far from over anyway. This is only one major step. The significance of it, that it is historical legal precedent, but we have to build on it. There is much more to be done, regardless of the outcome tomorrow. We definitely hope that the outcome, that people will go by law, will go by the book. If they go by the book, I expect actually that the 15 judges are going to vote for the ceasefire and open investigation and so forth. If it doesn't go that way, I mean, I'm not trying to really discourage anybody, but I won't be so surprised. Palestinians, they fight a war, not a battle. This is only one of the battles that we're fighting. I'm telling you right now, just like I've been telling you for the last 20 or 30 years, I have no doubt in my mind, Palestine or Palestinian cause will prevail. Free Palestine from the river to the sea is a reality we will all live and witness in less than a handful of years coming. There is so much that's to be done. We see all the heroes taken to the streets all over the world, in the US, in town halls, in protests, shutting down bridges, throughout Europe, throughout the world. We've seen the millions coming out in Cape Town, coming out in South Africa. We've seen the millions coming out in Yemen over the weekend. So I know that I have faith in humanity. I have faith in people. And we will not stop until like Palestine is free from the river to the sea. This Israeli cancer is going to be gone. It has to go once and for all, for the best interest of humanity at large. I mean, injustice to one is injustice to all. What we've seen in Palestine, what we've seen in Gaza, what we've seen like actually throughout the 75 years of Israeli atrocities, genocide, and ethnic cleansing, and human catastrophe that we've seen in Palestine in the 75 years is much more horrific than we ever heard of, including in the Nazi Holocaust. Those people are even like, they make Nazis look like angels, so it has to end. One way or another, it has to end. South Africa is taking the lead in terms of the diplomatic and legal initiatives that need to be done. Palestinians are conducting themselves, whether it's in Gaza, whether it's Hamas, whether conducting themselves to the highest norms of humanity and civilization and the Muslim code of how to conduct ourselves. And we're going to stay truthful to our values, to our principles, to our laws, to our standards. And if these people, don't have basically like no shame whatsoever, and there is no like limits to how low they can go. We will stick to our faith, we will stick to our standards, and we will prevail, inshallah.
Inshallah. But also, Professor Nidal, what's interesting to note is since South Africa has now taken this this legal action to the ICJ, looking at the global South in particular, looking at the Arab world, looking at the Muslim world, and it's only in the last few days where we've actually learned that they are now supporting this initiative. And many have been saying that, what was wrong with the OIC? What was wrong with the Arab League? Why have they not done something like this a long time ago?
For a very simple reason. Israel was created by colonization, the very same colonization that created the sister regimes of the Muslim countries and of the Arab world. So if you're talking about Saudi Arabia, if you're talking about the OIC members, if you're talking about any Arab government, basically, it was created actually by the same, and including the Arab League, by the way, they were all created by the same European colonizers that created Israel. So how do you expect that if they all come from the same roots, from the same seed, how do you expect them to be any different? Just because they're Muhammad and Abdullah and bin Zayed and bin Salman and bin Saud and bin this, bin that, they're no different than bin Gfir, than Netanyahu, than whatever. It's just a matter of semantics and just like different names.
Well, certainly, but also I think now we've seen a wake-up call, I suppose, right across the entire world. And just looking at it from your side, your part of the world, looking at this South African action, just how much interest is there from people on the ground, people in your circles, people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis?
Well, as an American myself, I'm, U.S. born, I have to apologize to the whole world for our criminal terrorist regime that we have here in the U.S., for our genocidal Joe and, the war criminal Blinken and so forth. These do not represent the American people. These do not represent the American values, quote unquote. Those people, we're going to bring them to justice. I promise you. We are taking to the streets. I was in city halls yesterday. We're in the streets every weekend. We even go to even shopping malls sometimes to protest inside the stores that support Israel. I promise the whole world that we are going to bring the American justice to American criminals to justice, whether they're U.S. presidents, foreign secretaries, or even defense secretaries. And, the justice from Allah comes to all of them anyway. We've seen Austin, having to deal with his health issues and everything else. Whatever happens to the people in Palestine is going to come back. What goes around comes around, and it's going to come back to nail those criminals who are actually causing all of this catastrophe that we have in Gaza. Gaza blood will not go in vain. I can promise you that, inshallah, Gaza blood is not going to go in vain, and that the criminals will pay for their crimes. We will go after them in every way that we can, and people in the street, like you see, the protesters shutting the Congress so many times and getting 300 of them arrested. These are all anyway Jews in the movement that says not in our name. So it's not like this is not exclusive to Palestinians or people from Gaza. This is a cause that the whole humanity has waken up to, has embraced, and we're saying never again. Palestine is going to be, inshallah, the last genocide and ethnic cleansing that will ever happen in human history, and we are all united, to make sure that it never happens again.
Yes, but also I think just to make sure it never happens again, what is very important to note is we need to be very, very strategic about how we move forward from here, irrespective of what the outcome is going to be at the ICJ, Professor Nidal. And this is where I'm referring to people on the ground. I'm referring to civil society, people that have come out in their millions right across the entire world to support the Palestinian cause, those that have come out and said, not in our name, those that have said, stop the genocide, ceasefire now, because these are issues that one needs to continue, one needs to be persistent in our campaign, because, tomorrow, if the ICJ even rules that there needs to be a ceasefire and, Israel stops, but it's not going to end there, because globally we know that there will be some consequences. But I think for people around the world, the new world order that you speak about, this is what we need to focus on as well.
The new world order that we live today is actually two sides. The disorder, the world disorder on the part of the corrupt criminal governments that we see controlling the UN Security Council and most of the dictatorships in the Arab world and around the world. And we see like the free people on the streets by the millions and by the billions taking matters with their own hands. So basically, like, the hope that we all see is in the people in the streets, in the grassroots. However, when you want to change any reality, you have to basically be very strategic, and you have to work on every level, from the grassroots all the way up to the top political, legal, and decision-making levels. And that's what's happening around the world today. Alhamdulillah, as you're aware that there are so many forums that are actively working on changing the status quo and turning this thing around and reforming the entire world system. So yes, the ICJ and the legal arena and platform is extremely important, because law is supposed to be black and white and clear cut, and when people like commit crimes or break the law, they should be at least held accountable. So that's what's happening right now. However, the law is only one of, or the legal arena is only one of the tools that are essential and must do or must take to change reality. There is much more to reality than just the law. We know, for example, like law enforcement in the US during, like, whether it's September 11, whether it's Iraq war, whether it's Afghanistan, and as we see in the Guantanamo incident, that so-called law enforcement of the US was actually specifically focused on breaking the law, even though that they're called law enforcement. So sometimes, like, the word like law means quite the opposite to those who are in power. And we're going to make sure that this is not the case anymore. And that's why we're going to make, inshallah, everyone pay one way or another for their crimes. And we're going to uphold the law as the barrier and the standard for justice for everyone. Just like I said that, there is like the political arena, there's decision-making circles and so forth. Since now we already have the grassroots, since now we have already the masses that are relentless in their pursuit to bring these crimes that we all witnessed to an end, and ceasefire is one of the measures for that. But there is like so many other measures that we still hope and we work towards, inshallah. We have to keep building, because remember, I was involved in dismantling dictatorship and Arab Spring and Egyptian Revolution, where we ousted some dictators and so forth. So the work is never really like just one arena or one area. You really have to work on every level, and you have to work strategic. You have to have a clarity of purpose, clarity of goal, a clarity of what you want to reach and what you want to accomplish, and to be certain of the outcome of the reality that you want to create, and try to pursue all the different means and tools that you need to take to get there. And that's why the ICJ is extremely historical, phenomenal, and very pivotal in this movement.
Yes. Now, Professor Nidal, just finally, while you are talking about leadership, and we know there is a lot of focus on leadership within Palestine in terms of who should lead the Palestinian people, and we know these discussions have been taking place. In fact, even the Zionist entity has been very prescriptive with regards to its position, in the event of post this genocide that is taking place. We know the Arab world have got their own thoughts, their own ideas. The world has actually got their own ideas. Just your thoughts from a leadership perspective, looking at the people of Palestine. What do the people of Palestine want?
Back in 2006, the US pushed for Palestinian election, actually under the auspices of Oslo and Madrid, which Hamas actually rejects completely. Hamas was pressured, and they agreed to enter into this election. And the election was actually monitored by the US, by Carter Center for Democracy, and many others. And the outcome came by Hamas winning by landslide. And so Hamas is the democratic choice, the democratically elected leadership of the Palestinian people ever since 2006, and will remain as such until another free democratic election is held. So Hamas today is fighting in the name of the Palestinian people, as elected by the Palestinian people, as the legitimate Palestinian leader. Whether the US changed their mind about it or not, it doesn't really matter. US is irrelevant. US is a war criminal, genocidal, war criminal. They still have not washed their hands from the Iraqi, Afghani blood and blood everywhere. And now they're even like sunk like even deeper in Palestinian blood and continuing to support Israel. So Hamas is the legal, legitimate representative. It doesn't matter what the US State Department designates Hamas. Doesn't matter what all of these criminal terrorist European powers call Hamas. It doesn't really matter. By the matter of law, by matter of law, by matter of constitution, by matter of human norms, by matter of justice, Hamas is the only legitimate, legal, democratically elected leader of the Palestinian. What Hamas has done in October 7 and before October 7 and after this war is all completely compatible with the international humanitarian law, with the Geneva Convention, with the UN Charter, and by law. So nobody's going to come around and say, like, you know what, Hamas, not Hamas. Hamas, what they've done is completely legal, legitimate by international law and by the mandate they received from the Palestinian people. To try to blame Hamas for anything is basically like a criminal in itself, is complacency in terrorism, genocide, and war crimes. And we need to get off this horse altogether. It's not October 7, it's not Hamas. It is that we have a cancer called Israel, which is based on genocide, ethnic cleansing, and basically like stealing somebody else's land. And you know what? Palestinians all over the world, they say, you know what? You cannot steal my land. It doesn't matter if you have all the superpowers behind you. You're going to get the hell out of land, out of my land, and go back to Ukraine, Poland, whatever you came from. No US, no UK, nobody is going to, ensure that you stay on my land. You're getting out of my land whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter who's behind you. What we see today is that the whole world altogether, I mean, it is the US that's fighting in Gaza. It is actually the US Marines that are being killed in Gaza today. It is the Delta Force that's being killed in Gaza. It is the French troops that are being killed in Gaza. It is the UK troops that are being killed in Gaza. This is actually the South African and other countries and Indians actually that are being killed in Gaza. These are the ones who are basically murdering the Palestinian babies and women and bombing hospitals. These are actually the evil people from all over the world. These are the ones who are fighting in Gaza today. It's not what's Israelis. There is no such thing as Israelis. I never even recognize anything called Israel. Israel is a collection of some thugs, criminals, mercenaries from all over the world who came to steal somebody else's land. That's what Israel is all about. It's not a country. It's not a legal entity. It's not legitimate entity. Does not exist in my book. Does not exist in any Palestinian book. It's been waste of time, 75 years, just creating like havoc and turmoil all over the world and taking the whole world hijack for some colonial criminal purposes. But for all I'm concerned, Palestine is Palestine, has always been Palestine, still Palestine, will always be Palestine from the river to the sea.
Well, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, Prophet Nidal. As always, we do appreciate your time. Allah accept, Allah reward your efforts, and inshallah, looking forward to touch base with you very, very soon. But once again, we appreciate your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's always a pleasure to be with you, brother Inayat.
Prophet Nidal Sakr was us this evening, March for Justice from the United States of America. And with that, we heading towards the end of this evening's edition of Wednesday Night with myself, Inayat Wali. And once again, just to remind ourselves, all eyes will be at The Hague tomorrow when South Africa presents the case at the International Court of Justice. And I'm sure we will be providing a lot more analysis as well right here on Salam Media. But for now, I'm signing off from myself and the team here at Salam Media. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.